Now, later today, our latest Hotline documentary will air. It's called Return of the Royal Storm, and it tells the story of Boxer Isaac Dogboe. Now, he's a former super bantamweight champion. He won 20 out of his 21 fights, and of course, we'll hear from him himself and the producer of the documentary, Nathaniel Atto. But here are some excerpts, of the documentary.
3 hours drive from Ghana's capital, Accra, is a family home located within a residential area in the heart of the coastal town of Keta. There are no distractions. It's training, family time, sleep, meditation, training, and the cycle repeats itself for Isaac Dogboe the Royal Storm. Every day has its different schedules for the former WBO Super Bantamweight champion. Isaac Dogboe comes from a decent background, and many a child growing in this kind of circumstances would hardly want to go through the regimen of training to become a boxer, but he did. He fought in the UK, dominated, and joined Ghana's Black Bombers, the national amateur boxing team. He fought in the Olympics in 2012 and never looked back.
He's not from a poor fishing village. He's from a royal family. It's a family marked by faith. They see Isaac's title as a prophecy that's come to pass.
And a knockdown scored by the world champion, Isaac Dogboe.
Dogboe eventually won the WBO Super Bantamweight title and lost it months after one defense. But the descendant of the royal Badu clan of the Volta region of Ghana, who are known for being warriors, is on a mission to reclaim world title glory. He has an arduous task of reclaiming the title from Mexican Emmanuel Navarrete, who defeated him in Texas in a one-sided bout that exposed Dogboe's ill-preparedness.
Despite my ill fitness, I was hopeful that I would rely on my other attributes, but things didn't go as planned.
He was fighting a guy that has a long, reach. How do you fight a guy with a long reach? You have to go forward and put your head on his chest. There's no other way. But then if you have to put pressure on a guy like Navarrete and your legs are gone, you can't do it. Because a fighter like Navarrete needs constant pressure.
This admission of the cause of his defeat drew great admiration for him purely because he spoke the truth. His father and trainer Paul Dogboe also admits that a lot went wrong with the training camp.
I was getting this pressure from people, leave your son to whatever. I left him. So that the fight, Navarrete's fight, I wasn't with Isaac in the training camp. I traveled from Ghana to England for us to go to America. We done a long run that we used to do like a 3-hour run, which we do in a 3-hour run. Isaac couldn't finish even an hour and a half. You see the whole thing? That was the Navarrete fight. So I said, oh my God, you are not fit. So what do we do? I mean, at that point, there is no chance. There's no chance. If you want to do that, then you're going to weak the boxer rather for the opponent to come and destroy it, because you have to rest in that period. A week and a half time, you have to rest. You can't train. So we had to come back to this sauna business, doing the sauna for him to lose the weight, training in the swimming pool for him to lose the weight. It was a disaster,
Yeah. Now, of course, our resident boxing encyclopedia from the Joy News team joins us now to help us understand what went into all of this and why the story needed to be told. Nathaniel Atto is here with us. How great to see you.
Great to see you at this time of the day. Eh?
Yes, indeed. Yes,
Glad to be here.
But look, a lot of work went into this.
Sure.
And you, of course, I mean, your love for boxing is it needs no explanation. But why is the Isaac Dogboe story so important beyond all the other Ghanaian boxers who are currently seeking that international recognition?
All right, thank you very much. First of all, boxing is a sport that has brought Ghana international recognition beyond any other sport. For 40 years when we tried to qualify for the World Cup, boxing was holding us there. And you go down the line and you'd realize that we have 10 boxing world champions, Dogboe included.
Right.
10 boxing world champions. We've won the Football World Cup at the under-17 level. For the men, we've won a bronze medal. For the women, we've won a bronze for the men at the Olympic Games. Yeah. You know, we've won for the under-20 as well, but we've never won the Senior World Cup, which is obviously the biggest sporting event you can think about around the globe. Yeah. And these men have gone in there and done what many have thought is impossible. Ghana has Africa's most successful boxer, who was not too long ago named as the greatest boxer, the greatest super featherweight boxer of all time, together with another, boxer. So if we have all of these people here, there is every reason to always concentrate on this sport and talk about the challenges, the high points, and others. So I sat back and I thought to myself, look, Isaac Dogboe was Ghana's best international story, positive-wise. Best international story last year. Anybody can debate me on that. Last year, there was the number 12 documentary. It gave Ghana a lot of, international flack. There was the banking scandal. I mean, everybody's talking about the economy and, all of the residual effects. And here is a young man who went in there, fought in another man's land, and defeated a sitting champion or a reigning champion, claimed the belt from him. He was Ghana's finest spot when it came to giving Ghana good international shine and good, a good story and a good picture. We in this side of the world, we keep joking with these things, but you see, in other parts of the world, they'll celebrate themselves. They will do it through the movies, they'll do it through music, and they'll do it through their media. And we also have it. So let's do it.
Indeed. So the return of the Royal Storm is charting his return, if you will.
Exactly.
Because he's got a big one coming up.
Sure. So within that 1 year, you saw him, go all the way up to the top, and and then within one fight, which was within the space of 1 hour, he lost all of that glory. Now, boxing is a very tough sport. I mean, if you spend time with any boxer in their training camp, and that I've done with previous world champions, you know that, look, this sport is a very tough one. That's the reason why I hardly criticize boxers when I see them enjoy their money. All I want them to do is enjoy responsibly, that's all. Now, his story is a unique one in that his biological father, a former military man, decided to put his career on the hold, put everything else that he had on hold to come and train this boy. In the lead up to his selection to the national team, there was controversy. And at that time, and I met Dogboe years back when he was way younger, and at that time the president of the Ghana Amateur Boxing Federation was Ambassador Ray Kwaku. Ambassador Ray Kwaku practically put his neck on the line for Isaac Dogboe. In fact, there was one trial, fight, and normally what happens with the selection into the national team is that there are justifiers that are fought. So, it's called a national championship. He lost to, Jesse Latte. He lost to Jesse Latte. But then the president said, look, I want to veto. This boy has something that many of you are not seeing. Let us still give him the chance. It was a big controversy. I mean, it was one of the reasons why Ambassador Ray Kwaku voluntarily resigned. I mean, this is somebody who has massive knowledge. He's contributed greatly to the sport. He's made world champions, the likes of Joshua Clottey. Yeah. So he said, look, okay, this is the boy. Let's do it. And So it was Isaac Dogboe and another boxer called Joshua Boachi. Joshua Boachi eventually, when he didn't get the chance, went to fight for the UK. He won a bronze medal, and he's doing fantastic now as a professional. He's gone undefeated, and he's charting a very big course. So I thought that there was something unique about Isaac Dogboe's training regimen, his relative discipline, and the fact that he's educated and he's very, very deep. I mean, when you have a conversation with him, you realize that this is a boxer who's been brought up well. He knows what he's about, and he's ready to go through the needed regimen to get him there. Look, one of the reasons why we're not progressing in the sport at the pace at which we should is that these boys, very, very talented, get the opportunity to go into the national team. They go around the circuit, they fight in the West African Championship, they go to the African Championship, they go to the World Championship. Some of them get the opportunity to go to the Olympics, and you know, they fight all over the world, the IBA Championships as well. But then after that, the want for quick money, you know, the ignorance pushes them into the arms of all of these people who sometimes parade themselves as managers and you know, and guardians and all of that. And then it starts messing up their career and the build up of quality, you know. So these guys go in there and they work with these managers, and then they push them into these fights, these very cheap fights, $5,000, $6,000. And for a lot of promoters around the world, what they are looking for is to create big brands out of the boxers. So if you, Kojo Yankson, are a boxer and I'm your promoter, all I'm looking forward to do is to create a smooth path as much as possible for you so you could get to the top, remain relevant, and remain marketable. Because you see, the longer you run as a champion, the bigger your name becomes, the bigger the appeal by the public, and the bigger money we command. You know, so we become the victims, and then these boxers are thrown to them. And then you'd realize, and I can name so many of them for you who now are not as good as we'd expect them to be. One of them is Habib Ahmed, who recently got an opportunity to go and fight, you know, in Mexico for a world championship, a world title fight. This is one of our finest boxers. But at a certain stage, okay, so he goes in there, these quickly arranged fights and gyms and all of that, and he built up a good record, but then he didn't fight good opponents. So the different thing about him is that he found himself in a consistently controlled environment, okay? And that has helped him a great deal. The monitoring has been there, and the discipline has been there as well.
Now, he has some social exposure. He grew up, you know, outside Ghana.
Sure.
But he's chosen to ply his trade, if you will, here. Does he feel some disadvantages? I mean, you've spent some time with him. Clearly, in terms of, you know, logistics and facilities, we are not likely to be on the same level as, you know, as the UK. Does he feel that disadvantage?
Let me tell you something. Quickly ask yourself the question. Why is it that Ike Bazooka Quartey will do 50 to 70% of his training here and then go maybe like 2 weeks to the fight to go and wrap up training out there? The only reason why boxers will want to relocate from here probably will be internal arrangements for training. For instance, that you, Kojo Yankson, are a boxer. Your trainer is not based here. So because of that, you need to move to his geographical location, and then you have a training camp. Away from that, adverse effects of the weather are very, very key. I mean, it applies to every other sport. So for instance, if we're here in Ghana, it's summer, and you know that nowadays it's very humid around here. You go out to a place where it's very, very cold, it's extremely opposite, it is going to have an effect on you. So there is every reason why you need to get an environment that is close to that kind of, or similar to that kind of, you know, climate or that kind of weather, and then you can, you know, you can have a good training camp. In terms of the facilities and all of that, yeah, we have a very big deficit. But look, trust me, we have standard gyms here. We have standard gyms here. At the end of the day, it is what you make of it, and the kind of depth that your trainer has, and the kind of wits and the kind of skill that you apply to it. It's as simple as that. Because look, Azuma Nelson has trained here, Ike Bazooka Quartey has trained here, Joshua Clottey has trained here, Joseph Agbeko has trained here, and all of them have done this and have gone to win world titles. So yes, we have an inadequacy, but let's not keep focusing on that as if it's, you know, we've, out of that inadequacy, we've created world champions.
10 of them.
Yes.
So it's clearly not a disadvantage.
Yeah.
All right. Now, so let's talk about the future of boxing. And
Sure.
You've talked about how boxing has given us more world recognition than any other sport.
Sure.
Yet we have this addiction to football,
Sure.
which makes us keep paying so much more attention, resources, and time to it than the one that is winning us the laurels. Talk to me as a, you know, not just as a pundit, but an industry player, because that is what you are. I mean, tell me, is there a light at the end of this tunnel? Can Ghanaians start to dream of a boxing nation just as much as we dream of a footballing nation?
We are a boxing nation, and we have a platinum mine sitting within boxing, which none of us are seeing yet. And you see, this is a collaborative effort. At the Ghana Boxing Authority, it cannot be done alone. It cannot be done by the Ghana Boxing Authority alone. You need the Tourism Authority in there. You need the Finance Ministry in there. You need the private sector in there greatly. Because what? Guess what? Why is it that the then president of then Zaire, which is now DRC, would devote so many millions of dollars into an event that will last a minimum of 1.5 hours? Ask yourself. Because you see, lying therein are massive benefits.
You're talking about
massive benefits, definitely. Okay? We're talking about massive benefits that cannot be immediately realized. The Germany World Cup in 2006 grew their economy over 7%. But the thing is, it didn't happen within one day or a day after the World Cup was closed. It was something that happened gradually. You understand me? When you have a product, what do? You shine light on it. And what we need to do is to sit back, draw a plan and a value chain that will ensure that we're bringing attention to what we're doing. So, for instance, I was having a conversation with a very good friend of mine, an aunt of mine, Mrs. Monica Baita, a giant in tourism here, in the travel and tourism industry here. And I was telling her about the Bukum Boxing Arena and the activity that's gone on there and everything. And she says, wow, so there's this much activity? I said, yes. And she says, look, I host loads and loads of foreigners who come in for conferences and all sorts of reasons. And at the weekend when we want some reveling, I mean, the options are very limited.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, okay, why is it that we don't come together, okay? For instance, you speak to one of the ministries. I mean, all of these ministries have loads of conferences that are hosted. So they have a joint meeting with a number of promoters. We say, okay, within the West African sub-region, we're hosting 20 nations in March on this specific date. Why don't you make sure that you put together a very attractive bill that will have maybe a WBO Africa as the headlining fight. Place it there on that weekend, because we'll wrap up the conference on Friday, and on Saturday it's a free day and the people will need some entertainment. That is how it starts. That is how it starts. We're talking about the story of Rwanda. Rwanda's story is not rocket science. It was a sustained effort. Look, I'll tell you something. Way back in 2005, and I've covered, one of the sports that I've also covered greatly is cricket.
Yeah.
Look, so over a period, I was going back and forth from South Africa for cricket tournaments, and I realized that the president then of the Cricket Federation in Rwanda, his name is Charles Harbour. He's a banker by profession. Every other time when we came for these conferences, Charles will go around and share brochures on Rwanda and the tourism spots in Rwanda. I'll take them, I'll put them in my bag, I'll forget to read them. And then one evening I said to myself, you know something, pick this and read. And then there we go. So all of the stories that CNN kept telling you about the after effects of the genocide and how Rwanda is the worst place on earth to go to, and it's under a shadow of ghosts and dead people. This was a lot of green space, a lot of beautiful places to visit, and I said, wow. So imagine there are 1,000 more of me okay, or 1,000 more Charles Harbors in different places on the African continent alone. Look at the kind of effect it's going to have. Indeed. And that is what they're benefiting from.
And boxing can be that magnet.
Exactly,
that attracts them
exactly, because it brings, just before you come in with your question, it also brings, like I said, it creates a big value chain. So you have beverage people, you have the hoteliers, you have people in transport, and everybody benefits when you put together a good event with good, what you call it. I think it's a discussion which requires the whole of this show.
A lot more time, yes indeed. Now this is how I want us to wrap up very quickly, because we've got literally half a minute. We have a president who used to box.
Sure.
Are we seeing any benefit of that in the boxing world?
Well, I guess that it makes it easier when you're telling the story and making a case for them to place more resources towards the development of boxing.
Right.
Because he's seen what's happened and he takes keen interest nowadays. I mean, there's a little scheme of reward for boxers who win world titles, but I think we can go beyond that.
Right.
Like you mentioned, there are issues of infrastructure, and there's issues of the technocrats as well. We need to train our coaches and make them accessible to all parts of the country. Come with me to Tamale one day. I'll show you the kinds of potentials that we have in heavyweights, for instance.
I look forward to it.
Sure.
A trip to Tamale with Nathaniel Ato. Something tells me it won't only be about boxing. But thank you so much for enlightening us on this all-important documentary. Watch it. The Return of the Royal Storm will be on later today. Now, why don't we take a quick break? Grab yourself a cuppa, come back here, and we'll learn a little bit more about Ramadan. It's not just a religious event anymore. It's also an opportunity for people who are not even Muslims to also practice the benefits of sacrifice, discipline, and self-denial. We're back after these.